Hello, I'm Marita Prinsloo and I'm going to talk about the assessment of consciousness and values by means of the Value Orientations or VO tool. This 15-minute video on the VO is to introduce the concept of consciousness, how it impacts on our values and cultural inclinations, and to indicate its relevance in the world of work as well as in society. But what is consciousness? Consciousness is a complex phenomenon, a pearl in the crown of evolution. It is our most powerful defense against meaninglessness, chaos, and decline. As Amarov and Penrose indicated, consciousness implies awareness, subjective phenomenal experience of internal and external worlds. Our views of reality, of the universe, of ourselves depend on consciousness. Consciousness defines our existence. The topic of consciousness is studied by psychologists and philosophers alike who deal with it in a descriptive and speculative manner. Scientists, philosophers of science, and quantum physicists also peer into the void. In the VO e-learning course, you will be introduced to a number of models which explain the development of consciousness, its manifestation as values, culture, and human behavior, how these constructs can be measured and applied in one's life, work, and within society. So what are values? Plato regards it as that which we regard as good, beautiful, and true. In other words, what is important and desirable to us. And how does it develop? The values of people widely differ and are shaped by their circumstances, cultural contexts, personality predispositions, learning experiences, and many other factors. And although there are broad tendencies in terms of group values, individual differences normally prevail. The goal of this e-learning course is to provide a framework to understand the values of people, as it fundamentally determines their perceptual systems, decision-making frameworks, worldviews, and cultural memes. Values predict human behavior as it determines how a person will use their mental and physical capabilities as well as their personality preferences. For us as psychologists and HR practitioners who realize the power of values and culture in the workplace, this aspect of human functioning is of critical importance. So what is culture? Here we are particularly interested in organizational culture, which refers to the underlying beliefs, assumptions, values, and patterns of interpersonal interaction that shape the unique social and psychological atmosphere of an organization. As Peter Drucker, the well-known management consultant and author, indicated, culture eats strategy for breakfast. But why are values and culture important in talent management? Individuals experience a sense of being in flow when their capabilities and their values match the requirements of their social and functional environments. Values can be leveraged by the HR practitioner to obtain certain goals, including person-job matching, employee engagement, team effectiveness, organizational culture transformation, people development, networking, and collaboration. So values are rooted in consciousness. It is more pervasive than one's personality or one's intellect and will determine how a person harnesses their personality and their cognition in life. Values permeate every aspect of one's personal, social, and work life. And at a collective level, values and culture fundamentally impact society and the world we create. Values determine how you see yourself, others, and the world, how you will make your decisions, what will upset or please you, your personal life goals, etc. Your values would thus affect your preferences in music, movies, food, clothes, relationships, humor, partners, work, hobbies, spiritual beliefs, investments, lifestyle, and just about any behavior or mental activity. So how can values be assessed? There are various techniques used for this purpose, including questionnaires, assessment centers, structured interviews, gamified assessments, and data scraping. In the case of questionnaires, the test candidate's self-insight and motivation are very important, and the transparency of items of questionnaires can be manipulated. Plus, ingrained self-defense mechanisms may skew the results. Should a questionnaire be used to assess values, it has to be designed not to rely on the candidate's self-insight, not to combine socially desirable and undesirable items, and not to be transparent. Assessment centres involve the observation of behaviour, but the same behaviour may be applied for very different reasons, and the subtlest differences in context can evoke completely different behaviours from the same person whose worldview may remain stable across contexts. Because behaviour is complex, adaptive, contextualised and interactive, behavioural observations are quite ineffective in measuring values. Then, in the case of structured interviews, a person may adopt one of several personas during an interview, given the specific goals and the particular interviewer involved. The interviewer's own subjective values may also skew the results. Gamified assessments entail certain visual presentations which may evoke cultural and generational factors and may just be completely inappropriate for the assessment of consciousness. Data scraping of a person's social media profile will probably be limited to isolated examples of online interactions and may not fully reflect of who the person is. So how can values be assessed? An innovative technique is therefore required which is not transparent and not manipulable, not reliant on the test candidate's self-insight, not based on subjective rater interpretations, not superficial and inappropriate, as often is the case with gaming and data scraping, and not subject to perceptions of social desirability. The methodology on which the VO is based has carefully accommodated these challenges to ensure the validity and reliability of the assessment results. In measuring overlapping and holonic constructs, as in the case of the spiral dynamics model, the challenge is to extract the essence and core meaning of each layer or each value system, which remains neutral regardless of behavioural manifestations. Because these issues are of a subtle nature, their measurement requires a great deal of practical understanding of the constructs by the test developer. So the VO assessment methodology is based on a solid theoretical model. The model is holonic in nature and the constructs therefore overlap. Certain core themes are represented. The items are weighted positively and negatively depending on the particular value orientations measured. The item content has been designed not to be transparent but to resonate with particular worldviews. The VO's item content was formulated and structured to capitalize on the principles of resonance and altitude. Evidence of a particular active orientation or level of awareness is extracted from principles of consistency, level or altitude effects, and overlapping themes. The theoretical foundation of the VO, it capitalizes on a number of models, including Claire Graves' spiral dynamics model, which closely represents or resembles Kohlberg's model of moral development, Loevinger's model of ego-state evolvement, Perry and Piaget's model on intellectual development, Wilber and May on consciousness development, and Mace on spiritual and leadership development. All of the above-mentioned models show the same underlying structure and developmental sequence and themes. These models will be addressed in more detail in the e-learning course. The spiral dynamics model is a holonic model of consciousness development where each successive level incorporates and transcends previous levels. Each level of awareness is best suited to a particular life condition. For example, a humanistic and compassionate approach usually is not well suited to excessively commercially oriented contexts. The developmental processes alternate between the poles of self or individualistic and those of collectivistic orientations. The pendulum movement from individualistic to collectivist to individualistic orientations progresses to increasingly integrative levels of consciousness. In terms of development, it is not possible to jump up the spectrum without resolving the existential challenges of each consecutive level. Trauma or certain circumstances can, however, temporarily or permanently result in a regression to lower levels of consciousness. To move from one level to the next often involves a painful process where the individual or group has to resolve their life challenges and become aware of their current orientation, that their current orientation does not accommodate the requirements of their life conditions. Such a realization may result in reverting to previous modes of adaptation, or it may give rise to growth and the emergence of a more encompassing worldview which meets the contextual challenges. The specific valuing systems as specified by the spiral dynamics model are addressed in depth in the VO e-learning course. A separate 15-minute video summarizes each of these value systems, which also form part of the course. So the VO methodology capitalizes on several principles, particularly those of resonance and altitude effects. So what we look for is consistency, because someone with a particular worldview may endorse seemingly contradictory statements, such as I am tough and I am sensitive, or I control my own life, as well as external factors control my life, all of which are true given a specific value orientation. The second principle is that of level or altitude effects. People with higher level value orientations may also endorse items normally associated with lower level value orientations, but not vice versa. This is because of the holonic nature of the spiral dynamics model. The third principle that is used is that of overlap. Certain contents or themes have relevance for more than one valuing system, but for different reasons. By systematically varying these overlapping contents and by scoring or weighting them differentially, one can get clarity of the valuing system involved. In terms of the application of the VO, it can be used for the following HRM purposes, such as the individual self-insight and personal development, team building and team effectiveness, selection and placement, leadership succession, organizational transformation, diversity management, conflict management, cultural management for strategic viability, and alignment of people and their values during mergers and acquisitions. Cognitive's accreditation VO e-learning course consists of several sections which explain the assessment methodology, the constructs measured, and the application of the VO results. The e-learning course is accompanied by this video, which provides a broad introduction to the assessment of consciousness and values, as well as a video which briefly explains the spiral dynamics valuing systems as measured by the VO. We hope you enjoy the VO e-learning course and find it useful within the HR context.